Now we have come all the way to Goa to experience Citroen's new car for the Indian market. It is this. It's called the Citroen C3 and it comes in two engine options for the Indian market. We've taken it for a drive and here are some of the most interesting things they need to know about it. Now let's talk about how the Citroen C3 looks, because it is in this department that the C3 really excels. What we have here are the top spec variants of both the engine drivetrain options. What you have there is the turbocharged variant. What you have here is the naturally aspirated variant. But in terms of design, Citroen has really hit it out of the park. Let's start from the front. As you can see, that is the iconic Citroen grille, and that actually extends all the way to the lighting elements of the car. So the top chrome part then extends into this panel over here, which houses your indicators, and the lower part then extends and opens up to your headlamp cluster. What's really interesting is that Citroen is giving a lot of customization options, over 70 to be specific, and a lot of them actually play around with the color too, as you will see in both these cars. So over here what you have are the orange accents, as you can see around the fog lamps over here, the outside rear view mirrors and the roof. And the other color combination that you can opt for is of course all gray, that you can see here in the rear bumper, the gray roof, and of course the outside rear view mirror, which is also gray. On top of that, you can also opt for several vinyls. Both of these cars have it. We'll give you a closer look on them. But in terms of looks, what really stands out is the road presence of the car. This really looks like a compact SUV, and it does not really look like a very small hatchback, something that a lot of people were concerned about. Now, there are a lot of things giving it that impression. First and foremost is the fact that the C3 comes with 15-inch wheels, and that really adds to the ground presence, to the overall presence of the car. And what also works are these plastic claddings all around the car, which give the car a look as if it sits higher onto the ground. So yes, that's from the front. On the sides, of course, you again have a contrasting element, which you can opt for either in orange or in gray, depending on which variant you're getting. These are the stripes that we were talking about. The gray car has it too. And that brings us to the back. And over here, as you can see, the C3 looks really smart as well. The orange design elements look great over here as well. And what I really like are the tail lamps, which mimic the front headlamps, because remember that was the top element going on top over here, and the downward element which expanded into the headlight. So it has the same shape, which sort of when combined makes the X sort of a thing. And there is some nice detailing going around on the tail lamp as well. Now that since we're at the back, let's start from the boot as we make our way inside the car. As you can see, it has a lot of space. It's 315 liters, if I remember it correctly. But one thing to note is that the loading lip is actually a little bit high, so it's not extremely convenient. But once you get the luggage over this crest, you will have a lot of luggage compartment on offer. So a good touch from Citroen there. Also, one of the things that I really like is that they have not given any key slot over here, as you see on the driver's side door. So the rear actually looks quite clean and gives it that premium look. What you get instead is a small button which you press here that opens up the boot. Now let's start by talking about some of the numbers of the car before we sit inside and show you how the interiors are. And for that, as I mentioned, there are two engine and gearbox options. What you see here is a naturally aspirated variant. That is called the PureTech 82. Now, PureTech is what the engine is called. 82 signifies the power output of the engine. So the PureTech 82 makes 82 PS of power and 115 Newton meters of torque, and comes with a 5-speed manual transmission. This here is the higher PureTech 110 variant. 110, of course, signifying the power output of the car. So the PureTech 110, which is the turbocharged engine, makes 110 PS of power and 190 Newton meters of torque. This makes it actually quite powerful for its segment. Now, This drivetrain option comes with a 6-speed manual transmission. The naturally aspirated one comes with a 5-speed manual transmission option. And interestingly, Citroen has also released mileage claims for both these cars. So the turbocharged variant will claims a mileage of 19.4 kilometers to the liter, and the naturally aspirated variant claims a mileage of 19.8 kilometers to the liter. Yes, and we can also confirm the boot space is indeed 315 liters. Additionally, the entire car measures 3.9 meters in length, has 1733 millimeters of width, and has a height of around 1600 millimeters with the roof rails that you see on the test cars over here. The wheelbase is also quite massive. It's 2540 millimeters, and that opens up a lot of space inside the car, as we will show you. So last but not the least, before we step inside the car, the front brakes are disc brakes, the rear brakes are drum brakes. Now with that done, let's step inside the car. Alright, so we've opened the door. This is how the interiors of the Citroen C3 looks like. We'll show you the interior of the other car as well, just so you get a better idea of what I'm about to tell you. Please pardon the steering wheel that's turned upside down. We did that so the tires stand out like this and the car looks pretty from the outside. But nevertheless, the big difference here in both these interiors is, of course, this contrast element. Now here it is the orange option, which goes in line with the orange highlights that the entire car has. And like we mentioned earlier, you can opt for the gray color as well, which you can see in this interior right here. So this entire element is now gray, which goes in line with the gray highlights that are across the car, like you can see over here. Now, of course, this gives us a good opportunity to talk about the build quality of the car. We don't know the safety rating at the time of testing this car, because these cars are absolutely brand new. Expect that to come soon. But here's the door thunk that may give you an impression. There you have it. That is how the door sounds like. Now let's step inside the car. Right, so now we are inside the cabin. Let's first start with the key. This is how the key looks like. You get remote lock and unlock, which is embedded into the key fob in itself. However, this does not fold, so keep that in mind. No keyless start, of course. The car is expected to have an aggressive price tag. So that is the instrument cluster. The digital instrument cluster. Now these are the places where it has the telltale lights on both ends, and right in the middle is what you see is the digital instrument cluster. So there's a toggle switch over here. Once you press it, so you can see we can toggle between the odometer, you have a couple of trip meters, your fuel efficiency gauge, and distance to empty. So you have all the necessary details that you would want from the car. You also have a fuel and a temperature readout, and a big readout for the speedometers. It's a nice setup when it comes to driving the car. This actually makes the car feel very premium, and I don't know if you can see it from this angle. It has some stripes going on the top and bottom as well, which really look like a good touch. Attention to detail, that is what Citroen does really, really well, and you can see it right here too. Now the interior really makes the car stand out, and it has these small holes embedded out into the dash. Was it necessary? Not really, but I'm glad they did that, because this again is one of those things that ups the premium quotient of the car. But of course, the big highlight is the big infotainment system that you get on the C3. One of the things that I really, really appreciate what Citroen has done is that the screen supports wireless Android Auto and wireless Apple CarPlay. Now, yes, a lot of cars today come with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay support, but the fact that this is wireless really declutters your cabin, because you don't have to have a phone plugged into the port at all times, and that, of course, feels nice. Which now that brings us to the AC controls Really basic. This does not get an automatic climate control system. It's all manual, so you get these old school knobs to toggle around and adjust things like fan speed, your temperature, and all of the rest AC controls. The circulation controls are neatly embedded into the middle dial. I really like that. And below that, what you have is a USB charging port, not a USB-C, a regular USB port. And of course, you also have a 12-volt power socket as well. There's a space here, that's why I've kept this here. So this is where you can simply slide in your phone, your wallet, and things like that. And beneath that, you get cup holders as well. Now, I also want to talk about the gear lever. Now, like I mentioned, right now we are in the naturally aspirated variant that gets a 5-speed transmission. I'll show you the 6-speed transmission gear lever as well, but this is how the 5-speed transmission gear lever looks like. Of course, at first look, it gives you the impression that this is an automatic transmission, but it is not. It's just a very well designed manual gear lever. Now keep in mind, it does not have the conventional spherical shape, so it's a little different ergonomically. You sort of have to adjust your grip as to how to operate this gear lever, but you get used to it. It's a little unconventional, but it surely looks really nice. It also has these indents in the middle, and it's actually all the way see-through, as you can see here. So again, do they have to do this? Not really, but the fact that they've done is shows their attention to detail. Now, this is the glove box compartment. Not very spacious, but will keep the necessary knickknacks whenever required. Now, another thing that works in the favor of C3 is the fact that it comes with steering mounted controls. That is a really good touch from Citroen. The other side is blank, but this is where you get controls, so you can change the source of the input. You get voice commands to operate your assistants, be it Siri or your Google Assistant, whichever you prefer, and you can accept and decline calls, and of course adjust the volume on the fly as well. But now let's talk a bit more about the infotainment system. Please ignore the flickering. That is something that my phone is doing, but nevertheless, the touch response is really nice. The display is really basic but effective. You can see everything. There are use of bright colors and big icons, and that is how the Apple CarPlay system works. It really is that easy. This is your default display that comes from Citroen. You can wirelessly connect your car to Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. I just connected my phone, and this is how the Apple CarPlay system looks like. Very effective, gets the job done. Good touch response, and this has to be one of the better infotainment systems that you can get out of the factory in this segment. Now let's talk about the outside rear view mirror. As you can see here, it has good visibility. The size is fairly good, but it's not electronically adjustable. You have to adjust it through these things here. So a little old school, but it gets the job done. Now the window controls are electric, so you can electrically operate the windows, and the driver has access to both the buttons over here, so that is also a nice touch. But when it comes to the rear seat passengers, the situation is a little bit different, because what you have here are windows control mounted on the center console, just ahead of a cup holder. So if you're traveling, if your rear passenger has like kept a big bottle or something over here, these will become difficult to access, but nevertheless, at least they're getting electrically operated rear windows as well. You get a manual handbrake lever, as you would expect in this segment, and of course you can keep your coins and change and parking tickets and everything over here if needed. Inside rear view mirror has good visibility, but it does not have a night mode on it, so that is something that we wish was not the case, because that small toggle here which switches to night mode, that would have been very effective, especially since most of our brethren leave their cars on high beam at all time. But other than that, very good cabin design here from Citroen. And now let's step on to the back. Okay, so before stepping in, let's give you a good view of the rear bench. Of course, you have a lot of space. The driving seat has been set as per my height. For reference, I'm 5'10", and even then you can see I have a lot of space on offer. This is one of the most spacious cars that you can have in its segment. Now, of course, for rear seat passengers, you get two 3-point belts and a lap belt for the middle passenger. And those who are seated at the back, they also get access to 2 USB ports as well. So that's the amount of space. Once we sit inside, what Citroen has done is that they've given stadium seats for people at the back. And what that basically means is that the rear seats are a slightly bit higher than the front seat. So when you're seated here, this is the kind of view that you get. That is where I am. As you can see in the rear view mirror, I'm 5'10", and this is the amount of visibility that I have outside. So again, a good touch from Citroen. Now for doors, of course, you get a bottle holder on both the doors, and you also have a small space over here where you can keep your change or your phone if required. Again, the rear window controls are placed over here, so once you keep a bottle or something, getting over here will be a little bit difficult. There's no armrest, of course, but well, this is how the switches are placed. All in all, this is a better look at the interior of the C3. And of course, lastly, this is the 6-speed transmission lever that I promised that I will show you. This is the turbocharged variant, and this is how the 6-speed gear lever looks like. Of course, in order to engage rear, you have to go the other way, pull this up, and then engage rear. So that is all you need to know about the 6-speed manual transmission. Now, how is the driving experience? We've had a limited driving experience with the car. We'll obviously have to test it a lot more in our full review, but our first driving impressions are positive. Good clutch feel, good accelerator feel. Even the naturally aspirated variant feels fairly decent in everyday city driving conditions. Of course, it is the turbo variant which gets this PureTech badge at the back, which is the better driver's car. On the turbo variant, there aren't any nitpicks to be picked, but in the naturally aspirated variant, you do have to remember that if you're someone who likes to drive spiritedly in city driving conditions, you will have to downshift, maybe even a couple of gears, if you're just going around on heavy speeds in order to make those quick overtakes. All in all, the drive quality is really nice, and the best aspect about it is, of course, the suspension setup and the chassis setup, which Citroen does really well and had done with the C5 as well. The car is set up very nice, it's comfortable. Of course, getting here we had to go through some bad roads, but that was not really any issues. So there you have it. That's the Citroen C3. So there you have it. That's everything you need to know about the Citroen C3. Now, our impressions with the time spent with the car tells us that Citroen has really hit it out of the park. What they've done is that, of course, they've saved some costs in order to have an aggressive price tag, and on that front, they've done it very smartly. So you get the things that you will appreciate, and that ups the premium quotient, like a big screen, big space, and a good road presence. Yes, they have saved some costs in some places, but that is smart cost saving. And at the end, if you get a good car at a good price, well, seems like the Citroen C3 is set to be a winner.